YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. We're gonna open this box right here. Bring you the joy of RC aviation. If you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, what we do is we unbox them, we build them, we set them up, and then we do maiden flights in 2 different videos usually. This is gonna be the unbox build radio setup. So if you wanna see how this Apprentice STS 1.5 meter flies, then you can check out the maiden flights. They'll be published when you're seeing this video. And if you want to see something else, check out brianphillipsrc.com and you'll find thousands of other items. Here it is, guys. We're gonna unbox this right now. Super excited to be able to bring you a new one in the box. We did this years ago and it was used, and then I crashed it immediately like an idiot. But you're not gonna do that because this is an Apprentice STS 1.5 meter skill level un momento. 1 moment is all it takes to learn how to skill this. I'm gonna just tell you this right now. There's skill levels 1, 2, and 3. 3 is like the hardest thing you can fly. 2 is somewhere in the middle, and 1 is easy. There's a lot of 2s and there's a lot of 1s. There's not a lot of 3s. And, you know, to be honest with you, if I was designing a skill level, I'd probably have more than 3 levels. But let's just say this is a smart trainer with safe. That's what STS stands for, in case you wondered. And you're like, well, what is a smart trainer with safe? Like, those are all things I have no idea. So let's make it an acronym. Smart means the technology that they use. Trainer means that it is a trainer, like a high wing, dihedral. It's gonna be, you know, easy to self-right, even without smart or safe, sensor-assisted flight envelope, which is going to auto-level the aircraft when you let go of the sticks. So, transmitter does not come with this plane. We're just gonna talk about this. This is the NX7E. And so you got an antenna that folds up here, and then there is a plug doohickey here where you can put your lanyard. When you let go of the sticks on an airplane, if you're brand new to flying, the airplane doesn't just like keep going like this. It goes in a million pieces. So we'll get to that later. So anyway, what do we have inside the box? This comes with, this might actually come with the DXS, but we're gonna talk about that more as we go, because this is the ready to fly finish level. You can get it as ready to fly, or you can get it as bind and fly. That's right, this one's the ready to fly package. So it's gonna come with everything but the battery and charger. And you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that doesn't seem very ready to fly. Well, you can thank your federal agency called the FAA for that. And I'm not gonna go into all the details about that because we're not spokesmen for the FAA. In fact, we're not really big fans of them either. But the truth is, not that. All I'm gonna say is, no, I'm not gonna use other F words. FAA. Okay, so this one comes with a transmitter, but just to be totally clear, if you want to use your programmable transmitter like the DX, actually you can use the DX lineup or the NX7E. We usually use the NX10. There's all the way down to NX6. You can go up to NX20. There's all sorts of various transmitters, but this one in the ready to fly package comes with the transmitter that you can use to fly this plane. But guess what this doesn't come with? It doesn't come with a battery and a charger. Yeah. So you have to buy this separately. Now, why? Because that's the way the rules were written, and that's just the way it is.
And no one asked us.
Because if you open this box and it had everything you needed, then the FAA would require a very expensive device in here called a remote ID module. And if you're gonna be flying this at a FRIA, like a club, then it doesn't matter and you don't need it anyway. FRIA is an FAA recognized identification area where you don't need a remote ID. A remote ID module can be added to this. They're around $100. You can use them in this plane, and that plane, and the next plane, and the next plane, and it's about this big, and you can power it from this device. But we have another video about it. There's lots of gripes involved in it, so you might want to read or look into that, and you can watch that. It's available right now. Anyway, so you have to buy a battery bundle. So I'm going to start this now. Normally we would finish the unbox of the Apprentice, but since we know we have to get this, we're going to go ahead and cut into it right now and show you what's inside this box. This is a 3S Smart Gen 2 power stage, okay? So now you'll notice we have lots of batteries over here. That's because we have lots of planes. It's gonna have a battery that's like this, 2200 milliamp. This is a 50C. I think this one's gonna come with a 30C, so it'll be like that. This is a Gen 2. Here's a smaller pack, 1300 milliamp, but Gen 1, so it's got this balance lead on it. And then we have some other charging options, so we're just gonna show you what comes in this, show you how it works. Okay, so this comes with a 4000 milliamp 30C. We'll link to this package. This is what's recommended for this plane, okay? The difference in size between batteries has to do with a couple of factors. First of all, there's milliamp hours, there's 3S, there's the 11.1 volts, which is the same as the 3S. We'll talk about that more. And then there's this 30C, and then there's also a C down here. You see how it says 5C? That's the charge rate. This has to do with the discharge rate. Yes, leave it up to the designers of batteries to confuse the heck out of you just trying to get an airplane to fly in the air. So we're not gonna spend too much time on this because I don't wanna overwhelm you with details. But just remember, when you're on Brian Phillips RC, we're gonna overwhelm you with details because that's what we do best.
Yes.
So speaking of, when you open this battery, you're gonna notice that there's no balance lead. And you're probably like, Brian, I don't even know what a balance lead is. A balance lead is this thing on the Gen 1 packs, like this, okay? That has each of the cells hooked up. So you could take a multimeter and you could test the voltage between this cell right there, the plus and the minus. And then it's in series, hence 3S as in series. There's another one, that's a plus and minus. And then this one here, which is another plus and minus. And then these are in series and they are parallel to these big discharge leads, okay? The discharge lead plugs into the plane, that's called an IC3. And then there's also this little wire here, contact, if you will, that pin, that's called a data line. And that data line shares the common of the ground, okay? Now you're like, how do you charge this if you don't have a balance lead? Well, this battery comes equipped with smart technology and it's underneath this orange part here and it will automatically discharge and automatically balance your battery. So it's a battery management system. They don't call it a battery management system, but that's what every other manufacturer would call that, okay? So continuing through the unbox, we'll talk a little bit more about that. In terms of sizing, there's information here. And then also this lithium polymer pack comes with some instructions. You don't have to read this, but just a real quick overview. The 10,000 foot view, this is what's really handy in here is it talks about all the different connector styles that are kind of prevalent in the hobby. So if you're curious, this is really helpful. It's like one of the best parts of this manual is just having all those connectors. This again is called an IC3, okay? This would be like an IC5 on this bigger battery. You've got a bigger discharge lead, so it's got bigger pins. And then if you go real small, there's also smaller ones that are like this that are JST, so it's a different type of discharge lead. And then all sorts of other brands come like this. This here is a Dean's connector or T-style connector. This is an XT60 connector. And we'll help you guys navigate the waters. Your shelf in your kitchen does not need to look like this.
It does not.
Yeah, it could.
And it's not gonna start that way.
If you play your cards right, it could. And your living room does not have to look like this.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't have to, but it could if you play your cards right. Now, in the basement, it looks even worse, believe me. And then in our shipping containers, it looks even worse.
Yes.
So anyway, getting back to the point. So this is the plug that goes into the plane. And you're like, how do I charge it? Don't I need that balance lead to charge? Not with a smart battery, because a smart battery uses this is the charger. And remember, this is a bundle. This is supposed to be something to get you up and running, get you the bare minimum so that you can have the least financial impact and you can still fly, okay? So it's not gonna be the fastest, it's not gonna be the best, it's not gonna be the cheapest, so we're gonna show you how this works, and then we're gonna show you an alternative choice that's gonna be a little bit more expensive. And yes, some of the power bundles come with more robust chargers, just so you know, okay? So this is called the S120, so we've reviewed these a number of times. As you guys might be already aware, this used to come in the package, but to follow and honor the legalities of remote ID, Horizon was able to offer this package deal because it's greater than 250 grams. They have to follow the rules, okay? Because they're a North American-based company, okay? So USB-C, okay? If it doesn't fit, try this end. Boom, there it is, okay? Then there's a little light on here. There's a balance lead. This goes up to 3S, because there is 1, 2, 3, 4 wires. So it'd be a ground and a positive, positive, positive. And then this is the positive and negative with the data line, okay? So you'd plug that in and you would charge right there. I'm gonna show you how this works. By the way, my USB-C adapter popped out on me. I didn't push hard enough, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna show you this working, and then we'll help you understand, you know, like why you might also want to purchase a better charger as well, okay? So this is just a run of the mill. This is nothing. This is not branded by Horizon. It's not included in the package. And as you can see, even when you lift that out, this foam, that's not included. So you do have to provide USB power at some point. Even though this power bundle is a power bundle, it's gonna still have limitations. Now, some power bundles come with more robust chargers that are gonna have like an AC input. Some are gonna come with DC style plugs where you have to provide your own power supplies like this. And then some are gonna come with other choices. But at the end of the day, we just want you guys to understand what you're gonna get and why you need it, okay? So this is gonna be enough to get most people done because most people have a USB port they can plug into, okay? So I'll just plug this in and then we'll go into this outlet here. Nothing special. Now watch the lights. There's a white light that comes on. This is a multicolored light. It's actually kind of like purplish color right now, okay? And then this says requires Spectrum Smart Charger, okay? So then you just plug this in, and I'm gonna cut that warning off. Okay, so once you plug it in, it's going to start the charging cycle automatically, which is very nice.
So it switches to flashing when it starts charging.
Also, if you want to read in the manual, if you're into that sort of thing, you can read exactly what all those light conditions mean. Be careful when you cut this off, because I'm sure you will. Don't hit your data line, okay? Now, the data line is critical, and here's why. Because it's a smart battery, I'm just gonna throw this stuff out. Because it's a smart battery, it needs that data line to transmit data back and forth. And you're like, but what type of data is it transmitting? It's transmitting charge level. It's transmitting the serial number of the battery. It's transmitting the charge cycles, the firmware, all sorts of different stuff. And so if you want to go up in the world, you could get into something like this. It's an S155. It comes with an AC plug. Of course, I've got mine all just chained out here. And it comes with an IC5 and an IC3, a USB-C upgrade port, or excuse me, that's a micro, not a USB-C. And then 2 through 4S. So this is gonna give you 4S support instead of just 3S support, okay? But if you're getting into this and you've already paid for this package, my suggestion is you just jump right to just cut the chase, go straight to the S2200. This is 200 watts, 2 channels. That means that you're getting a lot more wattage. I believe this is 120 watt charger, so it's a lot less wattage. This is gonna have 10 times the wattage, which means you can charge a lot faster. Okay, once it's on, it's got no battery detected. So what I'm gonna do is, even though this is charging, and I'm not trying to deceive anybody, I'm just gonna show you what it looks like when you plug this in. Plus I have to set one parameter on here, and you're like, well, how would you set that parameter using this charger? The answer is you don't. So this has an auto discharge on it as well as part of that smart circuit here. Now, each and every one of these Spectrum batteries has a smart circuit, with the exception of the really small ones, okay? And we'll talk about that if we run into those. Okay, so this is a brand new battery. Watch what happens when we plug it in. It immediately figures out what the battery is. It talks about the charge level. You're gonna have to get that lighting right, hon. Okay, so there, and it started charging, okay? So it's gonna charge it at the right charge rate. You don't have to know how to charge it. It's just gonna do it. So you'll notice it's a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. So milli means 1,000, amp and hours. So in 1 hour, this battery would be able to provide 4,000 milliamps, 4,000 milliamps or 4 amps for 1 hour, okay? That's what the capacity of this is. And there's 3 of those in series. So 3S, 4.2 volts nominal, meaning fully charged, 3.8 volts discharged, roughly, okay, for storage, maybe 3 on the low end, 2.8 if you're like me, you fly them to dead. But anything below that, it won't start charging, okay? So this is basically 11.1 volts nominally is what they call it. And this is 44.4 watt hours, okay? You can see that on most batteries. So like if you were to pull this big battery out, this is a 6S. It's a Gen 2 as well, so it doesn't have the balance lead. It's 50C, so it's a little bit higher. This is 30C. What does that mean? That's mostly a marketing gimmick. Well, what it means is this will actually discharge its energy into the plane or the load quicker than, say, this, which is a 30C pack, okay? Now that also, this is 6S, so it's 6 is 22.2 volts. That means there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cells, and they're like this big. You can kind of see on these, it's a little bit harder. Sometimes we have silver packs, it's a little easier. Here's another example. And yes, we are talking a lot. You see this, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is whatever this is. This is Genzace 2200, okay? It's got a Dean's connector. And I think this was designed for a helicopter or something because I had to be able to pull it out. Now this thing doesn't have a smart circuit, okay? Now, why does that matter? 1, safety. 2, automatic discharge. 3, self-balancing and live balancing. If you balance your battery while you're discharging it, guess what? If you have one pack that draws down quicker than the next and the next and the next, it will automatically balance that while you're flying. That's a big deal, okay? It will save you from going from 3S to 2S or from 4S to 3S to being 4S until the duration of the pack is gone, okay? It's a big deal. So guys, a lot of battery talk. I don't want to bore you, but I also want to talk about this. So if you want to go in here and change settings, so you can stop this. The camera crew is trying to get the camera so that you guys can see, but I got to be able to read too, okay? All right, so I can stop the charge. I can press and hold, and then I can scroll down here to start it or smart battery settings, okay? See how it says 72 hours? That's when it's going to automatically discharge. Or I can turn that off. Or I can scroll all the way up to 240 hours. That's 10 days, okay? You can also set the charge current, and that can be changed on the fly, and it will save the settings for this battery every time you plug it in. That's the charge voltage, and that's the storage. Now, Gen 2s are going to go to 3.9, Gen 1, and most batteries are going to go to 3.8. That is just to stop from having a situation where it can't start. Even if that happens, there's ways to get the battery voltage up to start charging, but we're not going to talk about that for you beginners. Get a little bit of weight behind your belt, and we'll help you do it so you don't burn your house down. Now, also, speaking of burning your house down, it's a lot of batteries. This is probably not the best idea unless you have fire suppression system installed, okay? Also, there's battery history that's stored in here, so you can see all this, and battery cycle 0. We've used it once. It shows temp, and then also fault log. You can see the faults, okay? This white color is really difficult to pick up on our camera, by the way. It's very easy to see in person, okay? So now I'm gonna go to start, and it's gonna start charging, okay? Now, let's talk about this, because obviously this power bundle, you're like, but how, you just showed us how it worked on this way more expensive system. Yes, because I have one. And I'm gonna tell you this right now, the S120 will be the best salesman in the world for any of these chargers, but it's gonna get the job done. So like if you're buying this for your kid, you're buying it as a gift for your dad, or somebody that you're not sure, they're gonna wanna have thousands of dollars tied up in batteries, because you can quickly do that. This is a great place to start, and you can make decisions as you go, okay? That's one of the things that's so nice about these ready to fly models, is you can get started, and you can get started quick. Now, we talked a lot about batteries. I don't mean to bore people, but the truth is it's one of the biggest dangers in this hobby is batteries. That's why smart batteries is such a good place to be, okay? If you don't know the technology, you don't want to learn the technology, you don't have the means to learn the technology, which you're watching our videos, so you do have the means and the wherewithal, because you can watch and we'll teach you, okay? Then you have no excuse. But if you don't want to do that, then you need to stick with something like smart batteries. Either that or another variety that's going to keep you as safe as possible. Because LiPos, the chemistry is more dangerous than other batteries because they're so energetic. And sometimes a little bit dangerous, okay? So you don't wanna have fires. The most dangerous time of using a battery is when you're charging it or when you're discharging it. When you're discharging it, you're obviously paying attention. When you're charging it, you should be paying attention. Make sure you don't charge, you know, overnight while you're sleeping. Don't charge when you're going out for an errand. Charge on a hard surface. This is granite. That's granite. It's thick, okay? Just, if you don't have granite, you've got like a cookie sheet, put the cookie sheet, you can use your sink. Don't put it underwater, but you can use that. You can put it on top of a stove top, and just until you've had a chance to vet it. Now, if you ever have a pack that gets kind of fat and round, then, you know, that's usually a sign that you've got a problem with it. Also, don't over discharge your batteries, and smart technology is gonna help protect you from doing that too. So basically, the moral of the story is if you don't know, the best thing you can do is either get advice and learn about it, or just buy the little bit more premium stuff that is going to protect you automatically. And that's what we recommend. So anyway, getting back to the airplane, I know it's really boring talking about batteries, but there's two things that people get hurt on in this sport. There's really two, and it's not getting hit in the head with planes, but that probably has happened over the course of the history of the events. But I'm gonna tell you this, it's props cutting people, and it's batteries causing small fires. And usually they're small, but sometimes they're not. So just remember, be smart, don't be a victim, okay? So
And if you're new, batteries are confusing because
They're
you have to
complicated.
learn
If
all
you're-
the different things.
Yes, okay, so what is all this?
I don't know. What is that?
Would you show the people what this is?
Action card. Okay,
they're
action
different.
card for safe. They're different languages. So
Okay.
this is the only one we need here.
So we don't need the other
we don't
languages?
Need those three.
Which
No.
one?
We need this one here. So this, sorry for the glare. Action card for safe. So this would be good to just throw in your box if you're going to the field. Shows you the colors on the switch for if you're in beginner, intermediate, advanced.
Also, I just want to point out something. Everything in this box is Velcroed in, so you could hypothetically pack it back up.
Oh.
I'm sure there's like 3 of you out there who will do that. But the truth is, transporting planes is a big pain. And if you're anything like me, you're gonna build it, you're gonna throw this box away immediately, okay? So if that's you, congratulations, welcome to the club with me, because that's the way we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so just opening this up, we've got the main nose gear, nice soft foam, very light, very strong spring steel, okay? I don't know what these are, we'll find out. And then rubber bands. Oh, those go on the leading edge of the wing to help protect the wing. And there's double-sided tape that comes off of here. And that's gonna help us to protect. The rubber bands will have something to bite into without damaging the foam, okay? And that leads me to the next thing. If you guys are thinking, hey, foam means low quality, just remember there's a lot of amazing foamies anymore. Like pretty much all the planes you see in here, they're all foam, okay? Are they all?
Except
for the
this
SWS.
red one right here.
Yep.
Yep.
The sport
That one
wood.
is balsa.
Yep, that one's balsa wood.
Everything else is
Everything
foam.
else is foam. So foam planes are awesome. And if you don't realize that yet, it's because you're just coming back to the hobby. And we're gonna teach you the value and kind of the drawbacks, okay? But probably not on this plane. So you'll wanna watch Brian Phillips RC a lot. Okay, this comes with 4 AA batteries. And I'm just kind of like unpacking it as we go. These are gonna go into the transmitter, which is a DXS. Now, of course, like I said, you can bind this to your DSMX transmitter if you'd like. Oh, and by the way, you can also put floats on this plane, which might be kind of nice if you happen to dig a brand new pond.
Are we going outside?
We will, for just a second. So guys, if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC and you haven't been following along, this is where we are right now. It's full. It's basically, we're waiting on one septic discharge to get moved. That's why there's an excavator in my yard. I personally dug down and found that. And that's it, that's your sneak peek. We're not talking anymore about the pond.
Oh, okay.
But I just wanted to say, in case you were wondering, floats are cool for these things. And yes, you can fly off of the water, and we will be doing it at some point. Not necessarily right away on this plane, but we will be doing it, so rest assured, okay? So, continuing through the unbox, we've got one wing here. Everything is sort of very light, very solid, very rigid. orange, black, decals, super smooth, okay? The control surface is taped down. I don't understand that. We have to install the linkage? Why? That's weird. So guys, you may be watching this video thinking, Brian, you're way past an Apprentice. Yeah, but the thing is, first of all, you don't know this, but I love flying the Apprentice. And second of all, you gotta start somewhere. So we wanna help people get into the hobby, get back into the hobby, and find success doing it, okay? We wanna help prevent one and dones on this channel. And one and dones are when somebody comes to the hobby and they get the wrong plane at the wrong time for the wrong reasons and they fail. We don't like people failing in this because we need more people involved, not less. Okay, carbon fiber joiner is installed and glued in here, it feels like. And then this is the aileron L for left, okay? So we'll come back to that a little bit later. Now, if you guys are wondering, I mentioned something about binding, didn't I? So if you don't know what binding means, binding is when you hook your transmitter to your plane. You identify, I left that on there, didn't I? Oh, look.
No, you took them both off.
Okay, so I'm gonna pull this tape. A little bit of damage there. That's kind of disappointing. Look,
Yeah.
right there. They obviously didn't use enough foam to protect the foam from the foam, which is unusual.
I wonder if that's from this control horn, because it looks like that was supposed to be
slipped.
covered up and it's not.
Yeah, it slipped out.
kinda
That's what
gouged it
happened.
a little bit.
Shipping damage, dang it. Okay, so speaking of binding, sorry I got off track there. You'll notice that about Brian Phillips RC. There's a lot to talk about in this hobby, and we're gonna try to take you from the box to the air, you know, or from the chair to the air, sometimes we say, because we'll help you order them too. All you have to do is watch the video, follow along, and we'll touch on all the stuff that you need to do, okay? So as I take this out, I just want to point out that there's Velcro in here that holds this in, okay? So some of the packaging you'll be able to take off, some of it you won't. Throttle stick, rudder, elevator, ailerons, okay? I use thumb grips, some people use pincer grips, I don't do that. And then this will be the mode, and then there's the bind button, also the panic button, and then that's probably gonna be throttle cut or throttle hold. And then there's 2 position, probably high rates, low rates, and then a power button. Now, just to be clear, this is a pretty robust transmitter, even though it is kind of an included transmitter, if you will. Mm-hmm. You can actually store a bunch of models on here, but nobody does that, okay? There are people that do it, just not me. And I'm not gonna teach you how to do it because I think there's a million better things you can do with your time. If you're that involved in this hobby, that you have more than one plane, just trust me. There's a big room up here. You can actually put a different type of battery or transmitter in there. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, so now this, batteries are in, turns on, and then this is gonna tell you your voltage of the plane as you're flying. Pretty cool, so you have telemetry. Now also, the telemetry will work on a transmitter like this, except you've got more feedback because you've actually got stuff you can read, okay? So it's really handy. Okay, I'm gonna turn this back off. That just means the RF is on. When you turn this off, you just press and hold. It makes an audible feedback.
You still skipped the what is binding question.
So what is binding? So binding is when you make an assignment between the transmitter and the receiver, okay? And then these talk to each other, and you have to be in the right protocol. So there's different protocols, and protocols meaning like different brands. And in this case, this one uses DSMX. And DSMX is one of the protocols that Spectrum works with. DSM2 previously, DSM before that, okay? So if you have a DSM2 transmitter, then that means you have an older version. And just so you know, they are compatible most of the time, but not always, okay? It depends on the plane, and we'll help you figure that out as we go through the Unbox Build radio setup. And part of the reason that we have this channel is because a lot of people need help. And a lot of these things are not common knowledge, okay? So if you know about batteries and maybe you've got some expertise in the field of electronics, then you might know all the stuff we're talking about. First of all, a little bit of lateral stability provided by a piece of carbon fiber. This is very thin. It's very light duty, okay? That's the way it was before. You also notice the control horn is on the top. It's a pinch hinge that's been reinforced with tape, okay? So believe it or not, tape makes a big difference, okay? It's kind of huge, okay? Now, horizontal stabilizer there. Now the vertical stabilizer here, just pulling off a lot of tape. Keep in mind too, when you get a new plane, there's a lot to consider, and we're gonna walk through what to consider, okay? Okay, so pinch hinge, reinforced with tape. Give them a super close up. Looks like the decal is not the pinched hinge reinforcement. There's another piece of tape on there. And then vertical stab has carbon fiber here and here. So the way that you make a foam plane not do that is you put carbon fiber in to give it strength, or you make a body that has shape to it, okay? This is a trainer. It's simple, it's basic, and that's by design so that it's light. Light planes fly good. Heavy planes fly bad or worse, okay? Heavy planes fly okay if they're done right. Case in point, Draco, Big Brother, is a heavy plane, okay? Because it's really detailed. Now, does that mean it's bad? No, but I'm gonna tell you this. Generally speaking, lighter planes require less power to perform at the same par as a heavy plane. You just put more power in it and it's gonna fly well, but then when it stalls, it's gonna bite you hard, okay? So stalling, if you don't know, is when you slow down to the point where there's not enough lift and you fall, okay? This landing gear has to come out first. This packaging, I gotta say, is weird. For being a beginner plane, they have really packed this complicated.
It's a pretty big plane in a pretty small box, though.
That's true, and that helps with shipping cost. And just remember that, guys, as much as it might be annoying, if you can hold down the cost of shipping, it's not shipping from Illinois to Tennessee. It's shipping from China to Illinois to Tennessee, okay? Or from China to California somewhere. Okay, so we got the landing gear, the mains, springy, squishy. Lots of play there, that's kind of weird. See that? Lots of movement, okay? So these landing gear will go on the bottom. We'll come back to that in a minute for the build part. And as you can see, now that we have the plane out, you can see we have a nice cowl. We have plastic reinforcing around the foam where you're gonna be touching a lot, and then this thing goes through and helps to hold the wing on. Same thing here, kind of old school style. And then look at this, watch this, guys. I don't know what the heck is that for. Is that where your receiver? Oh, remote ID. You can put your remote ID in there. So this uses an A3230 flight controller. And then it's got this little Spectrum, that's probably an SRXL2 satellite receiver. And it goes into that, this is actually the flight controller, okay? And then this is where you plug in your ailerons, and there's actually a power switch. We don't have power switches on planes anymore, okay? You wanna know what the power switch is? It's the plug on your battery, okay? Don't get used to that because it's not gonna exist in most of your planes. Also, this is clear now, which is really nice. So you can see what's going on. That used to be opaque. Okay, so that's where your steerable nose gear is gonna slide into, and I'm just trying to remember how the heck that works. There's a screw in there right now. And I wonder if that screw comes out. I bet it does. Oh, yeah. And look, they made a screw hole in there. See, that's why this, you can get a screw in there, undo the screw, and then this pulls out. You put the landing gear in, and then you tighten the screw from right here. And also, this is an 11.8B prop. So this prop is gonna spin like that. And it's really strong. This is way nicer than the one that came on the original.
The original one.
And just keep in mind, I've done the original Apprentice years ago, and this is gonna be the first time I've done the STS, which is kind of crazy because it's been out for a long time, okay? So, looks like that's all the pieces, all the parts and pieces. There's some cardboard and stuff in here, and then big, huge Velcro straps, which actually is kind of nice. I know what I could do with those. I'm gonna keep them for another project. So we'll just put this out of the way now. You might want to retain some of that so you can, you know, use it for a later project.
You were gonna throw that away?
Well, I was gonna keep the 4-in-1s just in case I met a foreigner.
And then give them information about the Apprentice.
So our next step in our Unbox build radio setup usually consists of building the plane, which is what we're gonna do. But I just wanted to talk to you about another part that you don't get in this kit, and that is a plane stand. You don't need a plane stand if you've got one plane, but you will need a plane stand eventually because you're gonna eventually cut a hole in your wife's Afghan with a prop on a P-51, I promise you, because I've done it myself. I just want to warn you guys.
And every night
in
my blanket,
she sees that hole and she remembers that I screwed up, okay? You don't be like me. Get a plane stand. These things are like 20 bucks or
They're
whatever.
cheap, yeah.
And by the way, we have links to all the special tools that you see A lot of them you're gonna have, or you've got creative solutions. You don't have to buy anything from the links, but when you buy from the links, you help support Brian Phillips RC and what we do on this channel. My wife is a camera crew. Her name is Megan. She has a real name.
Yes.
So anyway, all right, getting back to the point. So we gotta do the assembly. This assembly is gonna be a literal breeze, okay? So first things first, not even gonna read the instructions.
Hold on, I get.
Squeeze and press, right? Is that what we're doing?
I don't know, you're not reading the instructions.
Oh, good Lord, get in there. Goodness gracious. One side at a time. That thing is hard. Oh, there's also a landing aid sensor available on this too. There it is. This is a landing aid sensor. So that springs in and out. It's the same thing you can use on the Habu. And what that does is it has a downward looking radar and it tells how far it is from the ground. It helps you to flare, and don't get that thing. We'll teach you how to fly. Safe is huge, very effective. I think the landing aid sensor is goofy. If you want to use it, go for it. I'm not trying to talk down to anybody who uses it, but I'm going to tell you this. I don't believe in it, and so I'm not going to push it. Okay, fair enough?
Yeah.
So I don't mean to badmouth anybody who has found some value in it, and certainly these manufacturers want us to help you guys buy them. So if you're interested, all you have to do is when you're buying your plane, there's options, and you'll have like a little plus arrow, and you can add like this power bundle pack that we opened up, or you can add another transmitter or whatever. Okay, Phillips? I'm assuming this is Phillips. It is. Okay. So how's this gonna work? Do we just undo this? I feel like, look, this goes right there. Okay. I'm gonna turn the screw a little bit until this screw is let go. Okay. I'm gonna keep some pressure on it, because this is going to go in there instead, okay? It's just like a super long screw. This is just a very weird thing. Okay, so pull that out.
That is kind of strange.
It's very weird. And then there's a flat. You see the flat?
Show.
You guys see the flat?
Hold on. Yes.
The machined flat goes in here. And then what's going to happen is this is going to drive down until it gets to the spot where the screw that you just loosened from this one. By the way, this is like a Phillips like number 1.5. It's 4 millimeters, but we don't measure stuff in millimeters in the Phillips world. See, that's just a screw that they used as a placeholder. Okay. It's very weird. One of the first times we've ever seen that.
But that was not hard to do. So.
No, super easy.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this is where the battery goes. So you fold that open. This pops down, and there it is. You got a little Velcro, and then you got this little warning label, and it talks about don't stick your doohickey into the doohickey. And what I like to do with these is I'm gonna cut this off for a closer inspection. Now, I did talk about prop safety, and I gotta say, something interesting about this plane. Just gonna go ahead and just put that in there for later inspection.
Yes.
It is ironic because this is a trainer plane, and yet we have a prop installed, okay?
Yeah, true.
If you're brand new to this hobby and you wanna preserve your fingers, which I would highly recommend keeping your fingers intact, one thing you can do, by the way, this is so light, it's crazy how light it is. What I would suggest you do, if in any doubt, undo this prop, okay? You have to pop this thing off and then undo this. It's gonna show you how to do it in the manual, which we might show, but every time I do these things, I break the stinking spinner. And it's super annoying when that happens, okay? So this thing, oh no, this is the other style.
Oh, it's a twisty.
Does it unscrew? Nope, it's not. It's the egg style. Yeah, every time I do it, I break them. So what we're gonna do is we'll show you in the manual real quick on how to do that sometime, but not now. Okay, so now let's get the horizontal stabilizer on. There was a bag of screws somewhere, and I know where it is. Okay, so this is gonna go on first. Boop, right like that. And then this is gonna go on second. And you're like, but there's no screws to hold that on? No, they get held through this thing, okay? Now, if you want, you can glue that or whatever, but I'm not gonna glue it, and I don't think you need to glue it. But I'm just saying, if you know for sure you're never gonna take it apart, you could hypothetically do that, okay? So once you get that lined up, slide it in, that'll push down. Real simple, easy peasy application. Okay, obviously these things are gonna get landed on the control surfaces at some point. Not just quite yet though, because we gotta flip this over and you can see that we're not pressed all the way in. So we will eventually get pressed all the way in when we get the screws in there, okay? You guys see what's going on here? You got plastic reinforcement. You just wanna make sure you get that all the way purchased in there. Now, I still have my Phillips screwdriver. Okay, so I'll just grab the hardware bag. The rest of this is just rubber bands. We'll lay this aside. So just looking in here, what do we have in this bag? We have spare rubbers.
That's good.
In case you need one. And 3 screws, and that's it, guys. See the spare rubbers?
Wow.
These are actually fuel tube, and the fuel tube has been trimmed, and what that does is that helps hold these control horns closed, okay?
I wonder why they give you spares of those.
Look, 1, 2, there must be a third, or is that a spare? I bet that's a spare.
But that's a spare.
Oh, and just to be clear, that is a Phillips, okay? Same size will work, okay? So we'll use that same screwdriver.
You can be able to get that screwdriver in the hole?
Yes. Yes, I will.
Okay.
I just crammed it right in there. Worked out fine. Also, guys, if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, we appreciate you being here and supporting us by watching our long format content. We do some shorts, but it's usually long format. That's basically what we do. If you like this type of content and you want to support us in what we do, the best way you can do that is actually buying the planes that you love from the links in the video description below, whether it's there or navigate over to brianphillipsrc.com. That's our domain. It's BRIAN Phillips, PHILLIPS.com. Excuse me, RC.com. BrianPhillipsRC.com. And we have links to that all over the place. At the end screens, we have links all over the place to get to that.
In the video description.
In the video description below. And really, the easiest way to support us is that. We also have Patreon, PayPal for one-time donations, YouTube super thanks, and YouTube members. We appreciate all those, but the truth is, the best way to support us is watch videos, smash the like button, and then buy amazing planes when you see one you like. We're gonna help you vet the plane so you can make a good decision, because at the end of the day, everybody has a budget. Now, whether your budget is gigantic or dinky is really between you and your employer probably, or your boss.
Or your wife.
Your wife. That's what I meant by boss. I'm gonna push this in a little bit more. Now it's seated all the way. So putting the floats on is gonna be like super easy on this one. I think you have to take out that plastic thing and you have to redo some stuff. But either way, there you go. Okay, so it sits on its tricycle gears. This is tricycle as opposed to the Apprentice Stole 700 millimeter ultra micro, which you don't need any remote ID. You can fly that legally out of the box, ready to go. And yes, you could hypothetically use, I believe you can use this transmitter to bind to it.
Should be able to.
Because that is a dual protocol. So it's SLT and DSMX, okay? But I still firmly believe if you guys are getting into the hobby, you'd end up with something like this or the NX10. And I would do that as soon as you know that you're serious. I would jump into it with both feet, because you're never gonna regret it. Okay, so we have to assemble this wing. The wing actually gets joined together by those sticky things, okay? So I'm gonna do that next, okay? So this has, see that slides right in there. It's a really tight fit actually, which is what you want because there's nothing else holding this together, okay? They've made it so it's removable, but I mean, I gotta say, that is really, goodness gracious, that is tight like a toy gun. There it goes, come on, I know you want it. Now there's also this little key point here. I'm assuming I need something to slide in there, but I don't know because I didn't read the instructions. I suppose I could read the instructions, but I'm probably not gonna do that. Okay, so this is the front and this is the tail. How do you know? Because this is the leading edge, it's bigger. And that's the tail, the trailing edge. Yeah, that's the bigger part goes on top, okay? So there's double-sided tape on here. Pretty simple peel and stick. So I'm gonna just make sure I have this totally tucked tight. And if you want, you can glue this together. You can leave it so you can take it apart. It's up to you. But I'm gonna just tell you, once you get this stuck together, it's gonna be pretty dang hard to take it apart. And this stuff will withstand the rubber bands then and help bear the weight of those things that would otherwise dig into the foam, okay? So what I'm finding is that sticky is here and it's not sticky here. So I'm just gonna roll it into the leading edge. And if in doubt, if you don't think you can get it there, try harder. It's really not that hard. Okay, you're gonna get it, I promise. Okay, so now you have a wing, 1.5 meters. Just so you guys know how big 1.5 meters is, that's how big it is. I'm 6'1"-ish. All right, so if you want to install this wing, how do you install the wing? I don't know. The way you install the wing, I'm noticing that these are really bound up. Is that normal? You see what I'm talking about? The nose wheel's spinning, these ones aren't. Why are they doing that? I don't feel like that's the way it should be. Now it's spinning free.
I think that one closer to you was like canted up. Yeah, it was like trapped.
Huh, well that's no good. Huh. Okay, so as a result, guys, I'm just gonna go above and beyond. I'm just gonna tell you how to fix that right now, okay? Now, this probably will work, especially if you have one of them in your junk drawer. And I do have them in my junk drawer. I'm 100% certain of it. So I'm just gonna grab 2 zip ties. Now, this is not included, but I don't know if that's gonna be an issue or not, but I'm just gonna do this right now. The zip tie is gonna act like a collar. You wanna give them a shot?
Yeah.
Okay, zip tie goes around the axle. I'm just gonna put this on and I'm gonna tighten this enough so that it doesn't walk around the edge, okay? I wanna see if that gets me where I need to be. Yeah, I don't know if that's bite. I don't know if that's gonna bite. I got a zip tie that's too big. We'll pause and get another zip tie and come right back. Okay, so I got some smaller zip ties. I'm gonna see if this works. Just wrap that around the axle. I guess all I'm trying to do is just stop that wheel from binding on the angle. Oh yeah, that should work. We'll just do that. And all you have to do is get that thing tight enough to where it stops the wheel from walking up the edge. And then that'll spin free, but it won't walk up the corner there. And what I'm talking about is when this wheel walks, if it gets trapped, it might start spinning pretty poorly. I think mine might have been just jammed in there from shipping. This will just be our quick check and balance. And if you don't have zip ties, just throw caution to the wind. You'll be fine. This plane will do fine. Just have one draggy wheel. Okay, so now that we have that done, we have to put the wing on, but I'm not sure if I'm ready for the wing yet because we need to check the radio system. And also we have to put these things in, okay? So let's talk about another tool that you might want to consider getting. By the way, look at that. We have a white flashing light. I switched that over while we were paused getting zip ties. We were at 98% over here, so I wanted to see what it looked like when it gets done. So it must flash like this, okay? There's other color conditions, by the way.
So it's still charging if it's flashing.
Okay, so then I'm gonna put it over here. So it looks like right now, takes a second for it to initiate. Let's try this again. There it goes, 95%, okay? Now this is called an XBC battery checker, XBC 100 smart checker. This also acts as a servo tester, which is kind of cool. Now you don't have to have that to do this, but I'm just gonna show you on one of the 2 wings. If you wanna find the center position of the servo, I'm gonna go into that 15, 20 milliseconds. Brown is negative, red is positive, and then orange is signal in this case. There's also red, black, and white colors, and that would be like a Hextronics. This is like a Hextronics JR color code, and then the Futaba color code is black, red, and white, okay? So black would be the same as brown, white would be the same as the lighter color. So then on the end here, you can see how it says minus, plus, and S. Mm-hmm. Very hard to see on camera, but in person it's pretty easy. You see it came to life and it went to the center, okay? So when I click, it moves. When I click, it moves. Or you can double click and it'll do a sweep. Okay, so it's a really handy tool, not only for checking the batteries. Okay, I'm gonna go to the center, then I'm just gonna unplug. Now I'm not gonna do it to this one, I'll show you the other way is you just plug it into the receiver. Or in this case, it's a flight controller. The receiver is actually off-board, that really small thing. Okay, that's called a satellite receiver. So the other thing that's cool about this is you can also set up your smart battery configurations long press, long press. Look at this, all sorts of stuff. See this auto storage, you remember that? I can turn that off, or I can scroll to the different options, and I can set the value here. And then whatever I set here, it will stay the setting. You can also set your charging current here too. And then when you plug this into your charger, it's gonna automatically do it. Now this charger is probably not gonna be capable of charging at the same full rate as that thing. Just understand that, because there's only so much power coming out of one of these little adapters, okay? So you're gonna have a bottleneck there. But in our case, we're at 95%. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug this back in on this charger just so you guys can see what it looks like when it does come to a fully complete charge cycle. Okay, so it takes a second, just so you know. Okay, it's gonna go to green. And we'll just point that out when we see it. All right, so obviously on this video, we're going through a lot of the instructional stuff. Hopefully some of it's helpful for you. Hopefully some of it is not gonna be just redundant stuff you already know. But at the end of the day, we gotta kind of take this idea that you don't know. So we don't mean to insult intelligence of anybody out there in the audience. We understand this is a relatively basic plane. And we do way more sophisticated stuff on a routine basis here on Brian Phillips RC. So if you're wanting to stay tuned for something like that, you're certainly welcome to, and we encourage it. But we want you guys to know that everybody has to start somewhere. And so we really try hard on the beginner aircraft to talk about all the things that you're thinking, like, hey, why do they do that? Well, we're gonna talk about it. So we haven't even broke open this giant book. Look how thick that is. Don't let the thickness bother you, because I'm gonna tell you this is multiple languages, okay? CC, Italian, French, German, and then English, okay? So there's yours, like, okay?
Yes.
This is the manual.
36 pages.
Still a lot of information, okay? And one of the reasons you're gonna go with an E-flite product is because they have some of the best stuff. There are manuals here. Now, the other way you can find a manual, if you have a question about a plane and you put it in the comments and it takes me like 6 months to get back to you, my apologies, first of all. But second of all, click on the link in the video description below like you're gonna buy it or decide if you're gonna buy it. And then scroll down, you can find the manuals and all the help aids on the website right there. Regardless of what brand it is, it doesn't matter. But in this case, I just wanted to point that out. Okay, Phillips number 0 and Phillips number 1 is what you need for the assembly. It's gonna tell you all the different stuff. It's gonna tell you about what the ESC transmitter flight controller, okay? See, the receiver is a DSMX SRXL2 receiver. Okay. The engine, 850 kV, brushless outrunner, 12 pole motor, okay? So it looks like we did everything right, with the exception of we just didn't know where to plug everything in. They talk a little bit more in detail about the different components so that you understand what you're dealing with over here on this page, which we've already kind of gone over some of it. There's an electronic motor up here, electric motor. It's a brushless motor. And a brushless motor has a stator that spins around, and it's got magnets that are fixed, glued in, and then there's magnetic fields that are created by a series of coils, and it runs like an AC motor. The electronic speed controller takes the DC, the direct current from a battery, and it converts it to two things. One, it runs the motor on demand based on what the throttle channel says, and that's gonna be like AC. It's actually pulses and controlled through the ESC, the electronic speed control. It also produces voltage to run the receiver, flight controller, LEDs, all the other features that we come to expect on electronic planes. That battery eliminator circuit is usually 5 volts at about 3 amps, but sometimes it's more, sometimes it's 6 volts, sometimes it's 3 volts, excuse me, sometimes it's 5.5 volts at 5 amps, sometimes it's 7 or 8 volts, depends on what receiver application servo you're using. But on the stuff we normally deal with, it's usually about 5 to 5.5 volts at 3 amps, okay? Or 2 amps. Just depends on the application. But just rest assured, that's all gonna be figured out in a bind and fly. Now, if it's a plug and fly, meaning you have to provide your own receiver, and in this case, we got the ready to fly, which is even higher package, then, you know, you're gonna have all the stuff set up. You don't have to worry about it. And this is stuff that you can learn over time And you're gonna feel really confused and overwhelmed if you're brand new to the hobby today, but don't be. We're stepping you through the stuff you need to know, and we're gonna end on the other side with you flying this plane, okay? Now, also there's servos in this plane. There's a big servo for the elevator and the steerable nose gear right there. That's called a servo. And then this is a servo for, I believe that goes to the elevator or rudder. Yeah, this is going to the elevator. Okay, so it's going at that angle. It's actually going right here, okay? So it goes through this push rod assembly, and then this of course is the rudder and steerable nose gear, okay? And then back here, that's these two channels of control. One channel for throttle, one channel for elevator, one channel for rudder and steerable nose gear. They're tied together to one single servo. And then one channel controls both ailerons, okay? But in this case, I'm not 100% sure how they set it up. Now, sometimes people like to separate out the left and the right ailerons. And by the way, when you get this out of the box, you need to work these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I worked them a few times, and that's why they have these disconnected. Now, the other thing is, if you wanted to fly this as a 3-channel, you can do that. You don't have to put the ailerons in. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the decals touching, by the way. That noise you hear?
Rubbing together.
Is that the decals?
No, I think it's the tape on the...
Oh, it's the tape stretching. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, the idea is if you wanted this to fly as a 3-channel, you could. I would not do it. But I'm just saying, if you're into that sort of thing, you can. You would have the elevator, you would have the rudder, and then you have just a little bit of dihedral. Dihedral is this angle here where it goes up slightly and up slightly. Now I've exaggerated that with my hand motion, but this has, oh, I don't know, probably 3% dihedral, 4%, something like that. It's not very much. But you know, like that Cessna down there, it has a pretty flat wing, but just you know, the F7F up here has quite a bit of dihedral on it. The Draco has just a little bit of dihedral on it. And it just depends on the design of the plane, how it wants to handle and feel. And generally on trainers, you're gonna have a little bit of dihedral, because if you let go of the sticks, it's gonna somewhat be heavy on the bottom. It's gonna wanna self-right. It's just gonna make it fly easy, okay? But then we have an active technology called SAFE and AS3X. AS3X is the basis of SAFE, artificial 3-axis stabilization, okay? Stabilization is not the same as auto leveling. That's SAFE, that's sensor assisted flight envelope, okay? These work together. This operates within the AS3X, okay? AS3X is operated through this flight controller. This flight controller is what understands the spatial, it's spatially aware in 3 axes. So pitch, yaw, and roll, okay? And once you're aware of those 3 axes, you can respond to those 3 axes. Now, don't be confused with the receiver. This is just the transceiver. It's actually a receiver and a transmitter because there's telemetry. So we get data that comes back to this transmitter, and it tells us things like how much voltage there is, and then there's some other stuff that you're not gonna see on this, so I'm not gonna go into too much elaborate detail. But let's just say there's more data that comes back, okay? Now also you can put a remote ID in here, and that remote ID will also broadcast your, you know, to make other aircraft aware of your presence if they have the right type of receivers involved. I wouldn't even worry about that if you're brand new to the hobby, but just be aware there are some rules, and you can go to knowbeforeyoufly.com or .org, whatever it is. We try not to talk about it because we don't want to give free airtime to the FAA. They can buy it.
Those rules can change at any time, so you have to know your own local.
That's right. You just got to know. So if you're flying at a flight club, just rest assured they've got that stuff under control in most cases. Most cases. Okay. Okay. So coming back to the transmitter, because we talked about the motor, we talked about the prop, we talked about the electronic speed controller, which is that thing right there where my middle finger's touching. Okay, under that plastic. That also has a wire that goes back to the, in this case, the, where does it go? It goes back to this thing, which is the flight controller. So one thing you need to be aware of too, the flight controller is an additional item, and it's a little bit unusual. The Habu has it, This Apprentice STS has it. The Apprentice 1.2, oh no, I don't know what that uses. Now that off the top of my head. The Carbon Cub S2 has, basically, there are options that you can add to this flight controller that are only available in the trainers, like landing assist sensor, which looks down at the ground, helps you flare and slow down and touch down just smooth. Don't get that thing. We'll teach you how to do it without, okay? But it's a little bit more complicated. And so for that reason, it seems to me slightly counterintuitive coming from a perspective of reviewing airplanes on somewhat of a professional level. We got lots of planes in here and most of them have very simplistic controls, okay? A few of them, not so much, like these helicopters are GPS, basically drones. They'll take off, they'll return to home, they'll do everything. They'll go in figure eights, all sorts of stuff. But that's pretty much it. I don't think we have any other ones that have anything super fancy like that. Now, you may be able to get that for here, and I'm just gonna tell you this right now. Geofencing, return to home, auto land, they seem like a wet dream to any brand new pilot. They're not. They're complicated, they're hard to use, and they're still prone to different challenges. They have to be exactly right before they work. And part of the problem is you have to balance this application. Being that you're a new pilot, you have very little information to work with, but yet you have a hard setup. Like even for me, and I know what I'm doing. We've been doing this for almost a decade, and I work on systems that are way more complicated than this for a living. But the truth is, I feel like it's a big ask of a brand new pilot to like learn all these technologies. They're only going to be relevant to a trainer. So don't ask. Give them safe, give them AS3X, and let them have at it, okay? The truth is, AS3X and safe are the two things that you're gonna need as a beginner to really make it a lot easier to learn to fly. And it's still hard, okay? So anybody who tells you it's easy to fly is trying to sell you something, or they're lying, or they have forgotten.
Yes.
And I think the forgotten is a big part. That's the huge bucket. There's people lying to you because they're dumb, and there's people that are trying to sell you things because they're dumb, okay? Don't sell somebody the wrong thing at the wrong time. That's a bad sales tactic. The bucket is usually over here. It's very big, it's very broad. It's people that have forgotten how hard it is to learn to fly. I haven't forgotten because it's within a decade, and I'm old, but not that old.
Well, and you live with people that are still learning to fly.
Like my wife. So anyway, getting back to the point, we got the transmitter, we got the receiver, we got the flight controller, we got the electronic speed control, we got the motor, we've got the prop adapter, we got the prop shaft, we've got the spinner, we've got the prop, we've got the cowl, we've got the fuselage, we've got the vertical stabilizer, we've got the rudder, we got the horizontal stabilizer, we got the elevator, we got the servos, we got the control arms that are coming off the servos, we got the control arms that are on the actual control surfaces. Okay, control surfaces. We have the landing gear bogies, we have the landing gear wheels, we have the tires, if you will, they're foam, but still tires. We have the spring steel. We have the spring-loaded nose gear bogie. We have the set screws. We have the lid. We have the battery tray. We have the landing aid sensor. We have vent holes. We have foam. We have foam that's reinforced with carbon fiber. We have battery straps. All these things are terminologies that everybody just assumes you know because you are a human. I don't know how you would if somebody never told you. And if I didn't tell you, I didn't do my job. That's why we do long format on Brian Phillips RC. So we hope you figured that out so far. Also, there is a sensor right here. It's not a sensor, it's a light. It's gonna tell you what condition you're in and you'll be able to see it, but notwithstanding the fact that you can't see it through the decal until it's on, okay? So just be aware that's what that thing does. And that's a function of this flight controller, okay? Now also, I just wanna point out the carbon fiber is not just in the horizontal stabilizer, vertical stabilizer, it's also through this body. Carbon fiber and fiberglass is used to reinforce these. By the way, this foam is EPS, this foam is EPO. EPS, think dining plate at the family reunion. Very brittle, breaks or cracks and folds in half very easily. This is not. It's very resilient. It's wiggly, it's rubbery, but yet we have nice, smooth like flat finish, okay? We didn't always have that. Also, this foam tends to hold its color a little bit better than some of the old foams. They used to yellow really bad over time. These do a little bit better. Also, the cowl is made of plastic. It's removable. Screw on the top, screw on the side, screw on the side. 1, 2, 3. Once you get that off, you're like, how do you pull the cowl off? You have to take the prop off. Yep, I know it's annoying. Let's talk about the spinner real quick because we haven't talked about that. And guys, if you're really like wanting to just get to the meat and potatoes, I understand. Just trust me, this is stuff that people need. That's why we talk about. We'll talk about the center of gravity here shortly, 70 to 90 millimeters.
I'm not seeing spinner.
Okay. We're gonna go to the back. Okay. They talk about some rules here. There is a range test. We don't censor assisted flight envelope. We don't talk about the rules and stuff too much because we don't want to bore you. When you guys see this go to low voltage cutoff, there's a low voltage warning. It'll go. So instead of being full strength, it'll go. You're also going to have the lights on your controller change, which we'll talk about too. This is what it looks like with floats on, which is kind of cool. Yes, they are sold separately, by the way. If that wasn't already made clear, floats are sold separately. You can get them by selecting them with a plus, adding that just like you added this power bundle if you decide you want the optional accessory. It's in the optional accessories, okay? Mm-hmm. I know that they talk about the landing aid sensor, landing assist sensor. Landing assist sensor. It's an upgrade. You can get that too if you want. I would not do that, guys, by the way. Oh, that's an instructor. That's an instructor option. Okay. So, I don't know anything about that because I've never done that. And this is safe GPS module. Oh, that's for the GPS module, okay? Which ironically, folks, just to be clear, the remote ID module could fit in here if you need it. You can run that on a separate battery. You can run that on the power from this. You can run that a bunch of different ways if you want. But I don't know if they both would fit in there. I know the GPS module is similar. I'm not going into GPS here. And I just want you guys to understand, look at all this stuff you have to do for compass calibration. I'm not saying it's not something that you might want to play with, but I'm just not going to teach you to do it because I don't think it's helpful. I think it's going to deter from what you need to know. But yes, you can use the geofencing. You can do this. And I'm going to just tell you how this works. You're flying along and then the plane goes and it just like turns around and it will scare the crap out of you. You're going to need a new fresh pair of drawers when it happens. And by the way, if you don't set the plane in the right spot at the right time with that geofencing turned on, it won't start. And you'll sit there and like waste 20 minutes trying to figure out how to do it. And if there's one thing I've learned about flying is that you want to have as little to deal with once you get to the field, okay? That's why you watch a long video like this, because you work through all the details and then you get to the field and you're ready to rock and roll because you're going to need to get yourself psyched up when you're brand new, okay? You're going to be super excited. You're going to make mistakes. You don't want to have to do some technical thing at the field. You want to do that at home where it's comfortable, convenient, and easy, okay? Yeah, I don't even see. Do they really not show that? There.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. This is how you get in there. It's like if you were to break this or something, okay? They show you how to do that.
Yep, it's just a pinch.
Oh, look. Here's the ESC status. So that's pretty cool. So is that an avian ESC? If it is, that'd be pretty cool. I don't think it is. It's an E-flite branded. So if it's avian, then that would be a Spectrum branded ESC. Okay. All right, so next thing we have to do is we have to actually, now that we've exercised all the surfaces, we've talked about kind of the quick overview of the parts. Oh, wing, dihedral. What else was I gonna say? Rubber bands. Yeah, ailerons. You guys know that. Ailerons.
You said that already.
Yeah, these are ailerons. If there were flaps on this plane, the flaps would be inboard here or here. And then some people use the ailerons as flaps and they're called flaperons at that point. And if they go up, they're called spoilerons. Sometimes they're flaperons or spoilerons. You would need to have a programmable transmitter to do that. And it's complicated on this type of a receiver flight controller combo. I'm just gonna warn you right now, it's not as simple as you think it will be to add that if you decide to do it.
Yep.
I believe there is a spare channel, but don't hold me to it because I haven't done it forever. And by the way, this plane is gorgeous when it has flaps because it's already a great flying plane. You don't need flaps, but flaps are awesome. And I love flaps, and I would like to see flaps on this out of box. So anyway, version 400 or whatever we're on, maybe we can get that, okay? All right, so before we actually put this on, we already talked about centering the servo, this one in fact, so we could see where the center position is, because we're gonna have to potentially turn these little clevises in or out, and then these things open up and they'll snap shut. They don't snap, they just slide in, and then this fuel hose slides up and keeps them closed on the surface, okay? And then that transfers the mechanical linear movement to the actual control surface, okay? Now in this manual, it's gonna tell you, point at that spot, talk about that for a sec.
Aileron's right here, so it's gonna go on the outside hole on that control horn.
But we haven't hooked up the wires, and so we don't know where everything is gonna home to.
Right.
So we have to do that first. So in order to do that, we don't actually need in here to bind, right?
We shouldn't.
But if you did need to bind, guess what you would have to do?
Push that little button. Yeah, you were right on it.
I don't know if that's a button or a light.
I don't know.
I can't tell if it's a button on. Yeah, I honestly can't tell. Yeah, because normally there's a bind button. Now there used to be bind switches, or not bind switches, but there was a bind plug, which looks like a servo plug, and you would stick it into a bind port. We've gotten away from that. Now we've got little buttons and things.
I don't think we should have to, right?
I don't think we have to, but it's just weird because when I press it, I don't feel any feedback. Do it and see if I'm crazy.
No.
Yeah, I don't at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel any feedback. I'm wondering if that's even a button.
It might not be.
So, where's the bind button? That's the next question. If you needed to bind this to a different transmitter, you need to know how to do that. So let's look real quick. We might pause and find that. Okay, so that button is a bind button. Oh no, I don't feel it clicking. This is a bind plug, okay? This did not come with the model, by the way. But right here, there's a bind plug here, okay? So if you need to bind, you can put this in and then fire it up, okay? Now, we're not gonna do that, and here's why, okay? We don't need to, okay? We have the DXS, which came with it, so it should come bound. If it's not bound, I'll leave this out just in case, but you're supposed to be able to press that button, full disclosure, okay? Now, as you guys know, there is a power switch on here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the power switch, so it's over to the off side. Now also, on here, one of these conditions is gonna be safe, like the motor's not gonna work until you shut it off if it's got a throttle hold, okay? Normally, I pull it toward myself. If I have a lanyard, I'm less likely to push this away on accident than I am to push it toward me, is my best estimation. And I've had a lot of experience with throttle holds. I've only been cut one time on planes, and I've spent a lot of times working on planes. It was a small plane. I was doing crazy things with it, okay? So the best thing I can suggest is if you don't know how to do this, have a helper hold the plane while you do this the first time. Okay, the battery should be charged. I'm in the off condition. I'm gonna flip this plane upside down. Even without a plane stand, I'm gonna just find the edge of the table. It should fit, okay? I'm gonna move this out of the way so it's not gonna be in a dangerous spot. This thing is still working. I wonder if it thinks it's full or something. Flashing. Let's go ahead and unplug it and see what we got. Oh, by the way, when this goes to auto discharge, this part will get warm because it's gonna consume the power. It's gonna convert the power to heat, okay? So if you ever walk up to a battery and you touch it and it's warm there, that's by design. Now, if it's hot, that'd be different, but it's not gonna be hot, it's gonna be warm. I can also plug this in here and see what the voltage is and see where we are for voltages. So it's initiating the smart charge. So it looks like it's at 98%, okay? So now it's gonna bring it up to charge. That's why I love this charger. I don't have to think about it. And by the way, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is a dual 100 watt charger, but it's only got the IC3. This is dual, and it's got the IC3, IC5. This will do up to 6S, up to 6S, up to 4S. And then over here, these things can actually be run in parallel, and they can charge really fast. But this is very expensive apparatus, okay? So I would not recommend that for a beginner. it's probably not gonna be necessary. And we can also do greater than 6S because we can use these to run through a different charge controller, which we don't have, by the way, because people are flying on 8S now, and people usually, when you get up into those higher ranges, will fly 6S pairs. So they'll do 6 and 6 becomes 12 in series, or they'll run them together in parallel to get longer run times. Keep in mind, the cell count can be added together to make it in series, or it can be left the same and then you get more runtime, okay? So this number in parallel with another one like it would go to 8,000 milliamp hours. If you put them in series, it would still be 4,000 milliamp hours, but it would then be 12S, so more voltage, okay? You don't need to know that right now, but I just tell you that in case it comes up in theoretical considerations, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this. We'll use the battery that's stock just so we can show you how it fits in here. Now I just wanna talk about this prop. If that were to hit, that'd be a mess, okay? So that's the only reason you would probably wanna have this sit in a different position. And so in our application, because I have a counter, I wanna see if I can put this on the corner that, yeah. Now, I always assume a plane is gonna start up and things are gonna go crazy. They never do. You wanna know why? Because I assume they are. It's kind of like the gun in safety, you know, you just assume it's loaded, so you point it in a safe direction. Well, point the prop in a safe direction, have control of your plane, get ready to plug this in. Now, the first thing you want to do is secure the battery. Now, this is an upside down location, which means when you fly on floats, it gets to be a little bit awkward, okay? So just be ready for it. Okay, now this is not plugged in yet. I would really like to plug it in. That lead is not very long, by the way. So one of the challenges we face. Now, don't hear these things wrong, guys. I like this plane a lot, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. And that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. We try not to badmouth every little detail about every plane, but the truth is, just because we like it doesn't mean it's perfect. And we will tell you what we don't like. And that's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. Okay, now this Velcro got stuck down there, so I'm gonna take this and use it to help pull it out. Usually they're not glued. This one feels like it might be glued, okay? And that's annoying. Okay, when they're glued, what that means is that you're gonna have a lot harder time getting this strap to do anything for you. So I'm gonna take and stick this here and see if I can pull it to unglue it. Once you get that unglued, if it does, it'll be a lot easier to load your batteries in the future. Yep, there it goes. You see how it's pulling through now? The problem is you'll pull your tray out and you won't ever be able to get it back in without gluing it back in yourself. So I'm gonna slide this in. You're probably thinking to yourself, that looks like it's really hard. Yeah, it's pretty awkward, I gotta say. See how I just crossed it? Now, this fits nicely, that fits nicely, that's closed. You're gonna notice two things. You heard a beep, 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 or some such thing, okay? The prop is not spinning. I still don't trust this. Also, I should have had this on. I didn't, that was a mistake on my part. Always have your transmitter on first. This is plugged in, but we're still good. You know why? Because there's a power switch and it's in the off condition. Notice this is away from my head, okay? So because I have a power switch, I can get away with that. Okay. So camera crew is gonna come around and film from this side, okay? Nothing's working, why? Because it's off. I'm gonna hold the plane like I mean it, and I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna wait a few seconds, everything should initiate. Yep, it's initiated, and I can hear it. Okay, now that it's connected, everything would be working if it was hooked up, but it's not. Why is it not hooked up? Also, there's a red evil light on here. The red evil light will tell you what mode you're in. Also, if you look right here, you can see there's 4 green lights. That indicates how much power we have in the 4,000 milliamp 3S battery that's now loaded in the bottom and basically inaccessible, okay? It's also gonna be inaccessible when you're flying, okay? So just get used to that. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold the plane and I'm gonna move the throttle stick up and see if the prop moves. It does not, that's good. That means our throttle hold was the correct switch. Now I'm gonna secure the plane again. I'm gonna shut off throttle hold. So it's pointed away from me now. Now watch this, I'm gonna use my mouth. See, now it's working. See? Watch what I do. Shuts it off right away, okay? Throttle stick's down, get in the habit of having that down. Throttle holds on, Now I feel safe. I can control this plane. I can hold it by the prop. I can do whatever I need to do, and I'm comfortable. Once you know you can trust the system, then you can trust the system. If something goes wrong at this point, then it's, you know, that sucks, but that's not gonna happen because once you vetted it, it's gonna work. All right, so good talk, kids. All right, ready? This needs to be hooked into here. Where does it suggest putting it?
Rudder, everything goes to the outside hole.
Now, I'm gonna teach you something real quick. Outside hole means that you're gonna have the maximum leverage, which means you're gonna have the least electrical load on that circuit. The torque is gonna be very effective, but you're also gonna have a lot of precision in that control. As you go more inboard, 1, 2, 3, 4 holes, you're gonna get more output, but you're gonna demand more torque to move this thing because you're gonna have more surface movement, okay? Now, you may not want that as a beginner because it's gonna be like having a higher rate versus a lower rate. So for every movement of the stick, you're gonna have a little bit more movement on the control surface, which is gonna mean the plane is gonna pitch more aggressively, or it's gonna yaw more aggressively, or it's gonna roll more aggressively. Now, because this is a beginner plane, I'm gonna go ahead and set it up like a beginner would, okay? So I wanna look at this surface from above and make sure it's square. I don't want it to look like this or like that, or even like that, or like a little bit like that. You just want it totally square. And then you have to take and hold this rod, and you're gonna turn this in or out, depending on how this is gonna line up. So I have to ballpark this, get a couple of turns, and then I like to move this. Yeah, see, if I were to hook that up now, look what would happen. It'd push it over this direction, okay? So I'm gonna actually turn it in a couple more turns. Still gonna push it out a little bit. Go in a couple more. It's very easy to do this, by the way. It doesn't matter if that's up or down. I probably would come out half of a turn. Now I'm gonna slide this fuel tube back. Then I can use my index finger to kind of open that up and just drop it in there. Now, look at the top of that before I drop it in all the way. Does it look square? Mm-hmm. Line it up. Yep. Looks good? Mm-hmm. So now I can slide this in until it pushes all the way through, and then I can slide this fuel tube back out to the end. Now look what happens. Throttle is on the same stick, so mind that you're not going up and down. Yaw left, yaw right, yaw left, yaw right. Now, the other thing that's happening is simultaneously, the steerable nose gear is also moving. Make sense, guys? Okay, so you gotta check the direction of the controls. So when I move my stick this way, I want it to yaw the plane that way. When I move my stick this way, I want it to yaw the plane that way. Now also look what happened. After I exercised the system a bunch, what happened, camera crew?
Is it not square now?
It's not square.
No, it's not.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fix that. Why do we show you that? Because we want you to know how to really do this. Now, obviously, we want you guys to buy these planes. And I'm just gonna tell you something, even in this environment with E-flite, good, high quality, reputable brand, you're gonna have stuff like that that happens from time to time, and we show it. That's what we do on Brian Phillips RC. So when you see us review a plane, it's not always just a puff piece, guys. We're actually showing exactly the application. And I just wanna show you something else that just happened. I just broke the doohickey off of this. See how easy that was? All right, so now we have to fix this thing. There's not really an option, okay? So I'm using some needle nose pliers. I got myself a run-of-the-mill, kind of a thinner type of paper clip. All right, super easy process, but it's still annoying, okay? You shouldn't have to do this. If you don't have to undo this, you're probably not gonna have this problem, okay? So I'm gonna slide that back, just get it out of the way for now so it's not gonna be a conflict. And then the second thing I'm gonna do is, this is obviously, I don't wanna depend on that. It's broken, okay? So what I wanna do is I wanna basically take this little doohickey, break it off so it's gone, because it's already broken, okay? Now, what I'm ultimately gonna do is I'm going to take and hold this, and I'm gonna bend it, and I'm gonna make it something that'll reach through, right? Okay, now I bent a little bit too short. So I also have some side cutters here, but you wouldn't have to use side cutters. You could use the side cutters if you've got them inside here. All right, so what I need to do now is I need to basically make this thing go through the plastic. And you're like, how are we gonna do that, Brian? Well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna heat it up and then we're gonna push it through. Now kids, if you're doing this alone, You may not want to do this alone because you're going to have to heat up some metal on your stove. At least that's the way I'm going to do it. So I'm going to start the stove. Don't show them the stove because it's gross. Okay, so we got the stove on. I'm going to hold this to be safe. I'm going to heat it on the gas stove. Now, if you have an electric stove, this may not work.
It might not.
But as you can see, it's red, it's scalding hot. Look, hot. You got to work quick, guys. Don't drop it on your plane, okay? Seriously. Okay, so I need you to hold still right where you are.
Okay.
I'm gonna do this again. It took too long for me to get over there and it cooled down too fast. Stay right where you are.
Okay.
Okay, so sometimes it takes me 2 times to do this, sometimes it takes 3. But once I get that started, then I'll let it cool for a second because obviously I'm gonna push that through and I'm gonna make it into like an L or a C. And it's gonna go through just like it did before. The difference is it's gonna be steel. And then I'm just gonna bend it on the bottom and that'll be the fix and it'll last forever. It's no big deal. It's just kind of annoying. Okay, so you guys see these things cool super fast so I can like handle this now. Okay. You hear this obnoxious noise? That's an inactivity alarm. Okay. So now that I've got that done, I've got that started, but it's not quite all the way through the plastic, okay? So I'm gonna just work this out. Once I work it out, camera crew is gonna stay exactly there. She's gonna make room so I can get by quickly. And basically the rule of thumb when you're doing this is just be careful, don't cause a fire. Don't melt past what you need to melt into. Okay, I'm through that time. Now I'm gonna pull it out, okay? Once we have the whole, now you can use a drill too, but I'm gonna tell you, the drill's not gonna work as easy as you think, okay? So you see it's all crappy and heated up and junky. So now what I can do is, I can take, see it's already cool to the touch, where I can touch it. I'm just gonna take and discard. This part will be really brittle. So watch this, it'll break really easy. So I'll just throw that away. Now I can take that same component and I'm gonna basically bend and make a nice tight bend. I'm gonna slide this through. I can slide it from the bottom or the top. Now I'm just, I'll probably do it from the bottom here so it's easy. You see, all I'm gonna do is just pass this through the hole that we created. And we just gotta kind of line it up with wherever that poked through. Sometimes that plastic cools and it makes like a little plug. But it's going, I think it's going. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going. Okay, so now I'm just gonna work this back through, holding it here really tight. Just going back and forth a little bit. That's enough to get it to walk in there. So the idea is when you get that through, then this is gonna act as the bite point, okay? So it's gonna be that pin that broke off. Now, if I had $1 for every time this happened, I'd probably have at least 10 of them. We've built hundreds and hundreds of planes. And this annoys me every time it happens. But the truth is, partly if you're careful, you won't have this problem. But admittedly, you shouldn't really have to be that careful. I was being pretty much careful. So this just has to pass through. Once it passes through, see, now it's through. You see how it's through? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take and I'm gonna just bend this doohickey as tight as I can get it. So I'm gonna go up here and I'm gonna pull it toward me. Like that, and then we're done, okay? Now, you could leave that if you really want it to be fugly, but I'm actually just trim it back here, and I might just trim it here a little bit, and then maybe just trim just a hair more. Okay, watch your eyeballs so they don't shoot in your eyeballs. Okay, so what have we learned? Don't stick it in too aggressively, you might break it off. Now it works, okay? Amazing, wow. then we can just slide this back. And it doesn't matter what position that ends up in because it's gonna basically stay put. But just be aware, that can happen to you if you're not careful, all right? Now elevator, obviously the elevator is not hooked up, so the camera crew is gonna get where the elevator is. Okay, very good. So what hole do we go on the outside? So we're gonna slide this back. We're gonna carefully pull this out. Looks like we're pretty dang close. When we put that in there, it's gonna make it, is it gonna make it? Nope, we gotta go in a little bit. So I'm gonna turn this 1 half, 2 halves, 3 halves, 4 halves, 5 halves. Okay, that's gonna get us pretty dang close, I think. It's kind of hard to tell. That's pretty dang close. That's close enough. Okay, so now, and she's blocking my light. I'm gonna slide that out. I'm gonna go really careful and be super, super particular about how I line this up this time. There it goes. And then I'm just gonna slide that in. Okay, so it's in, then slide the fuel hose back, okay? Elevator up, elevator down, y'all left, y'all right. That is not very much travel. Probably because we're in safe, right? I have to assume we're in safe because that's not very much travel. Now also, real quick talk. This control arm is very long and we're in the second hole. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh hole, good Lord. So you could evidently move a lot further if you go further out, which changes this, but I would suggest you move to the inside portion first. It's gonna be a lot easier if you want more elevator authority at some point while you're learning to fly, okay? So now that we've done that, I'm gonna give you a trick of the day. Another trick of the day, we got these 2 wires we gotta plug in here. We now know that we can trust our throttle hold and we have to land these 2 cables. So look at these 2 cables. They're not very long, are they? They are going to separate channels, it looks like, which is kind of interesting. Camera crew is going to hold still. One says aileron R. One says aileron L. You have to make sure that these are polarity matched. So you're gonna make sure that the brown goes to the brown and the orange goes to the orange. The red is in the center, so you're always gonna get that lined up no matter which direction you go. Now, just full disclosure, if you hook these up backward, it's not like gonna catch anything on fire, but what's gonna happen is your signal and your ground will switch. So you're gonna short out, a lot of times if you have a Y cable, you're gonna short out the other one from working. And you're not really shorting it out. You're just grounding the pulse width modulation, so it just doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't catch on fire. I still don't want you to plug stuff in backward for the heck of it. These are keyed, but if I were to plug this in backward, it wouldn't work, okay? That would be backward. I have to do that. How do you know? Because the colors match up, okay? So now you can see that one sprung to life. This one was already in position because we hooked it up that XBC battery checker. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, why the heck is it upside down and why is it not mounted first? Well, because you have to land the wires. So now at this point, we could go ahead and flip the wing on, but I have to do this at some point, so I might as well do it where I can see. So now I'm gonna hold this in position. We're gonna go to the outside hold. This one's pretty dang close, but I'm gonna go in half a turn. That noise you hear is normal. That is a digital noise, we like to call that. It's actually the noise of the servos trying to find their home position. That means wherever the pulse width modulation is calling them to exist in time and space, they are trying to find that position. So if I were to work against this, it actually changes the position slightly, and the little controller on the servo says, arm, you're supposed to be at 0.333, and you're at 0.336, or 0.321, or whatever it is, okay? And then it finds that position. It's not a digital number, it's an analog circuit, but even still, you guys get the point. That has nothing to do with the flight controller, by the way, other than the flight controller happens to tell it what position to be in. It has to do with the way servos work in general. There's a trim, like a trim pot, it's actually a feedback pot that tells the system what position it's in that's attached to the output shaft. And then there's gear sets in there that gear up this like really dinky motor that just runs like 1,000,000 miles an hour, and then it gears down to the point of a slow movement of a servo. Okay, same thing here. Well, now hold on a second. We're level. If we're in safe, we're sitting on our landing gear, so we should be okay to do this. Okay, so I'm holding this steady so that it's even here. And then I'm gonna do the same thing here. I need to bring this in a couple of turns. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 turns. Okay, that'll get us lined up pretty dang good. Slide that in. Slide this back almost all the way. And then just recheck your work. Okay? Now I can take this wing and I can flip it around just like that. And by the way, for any amount of frustration you have building a model, whether it is breaking off a piece of plastic or having something not quite fit together or having bolts that don't line up or screws that don't line up, this is kind of part of the hobby. And so as such, we show it in all its glory. Now, does that mean I like it? No, it's annoying, but it is part of the hobby. And so we want to encourage you that if you're experiencing problems, you're not alone. It's just kind of sometimes things do that, okay? So we're gonna teach you what to expect. 9, 10 times, okay? Grab here, pull it up, bring it across, drop it down, and we've got our dungeon music here, so I'm just gonna move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Consistency counts. Here, hook it on, push down the wing slightly. If you want, the easiest way is usually pull it up and then back down, okay? So, but because I'm over here, I'm gonna pull it out this way, okay? So holding down gently. The landing gear like to move a little bit while you're doing this, so just be aware that's normal. Okay. Camera crew is trying not to be in my way. And even though we build lots of planes together, we still manage to find out ways to be in each other's way all the time. Okay, so I'm picky about the way these look. And yes, this is held on by rubber bands. Why does the rubber band solution work so good for a trainer? Because when you crash, the wing is allowed to slip and slide, okay? That is the only reason you would ever do this. Because every other wing in this room is attached by screws or glue, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, good enough. This one's not gonna be as long. Go straight over. And like to line them up and then straight on. Okay, pretty simple. Now, keep in mind, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These things, they do dry out, even the good ones. So I suggest if you plan to fly, keep these with the plane. You wanna know a good place for these, and it is gonna be a waste of performance. I would put these in a bag with some talcum powder. That will keep them from drying out for longer. I would close your bag, and then I would put this under the wing. I would put it in there.
Oh, just have it literally with the plane.
If you lose your wing, you've got that. Now, we didn't need to bind, okay? Admittedly, we did not even try the bind plug. I just thought of that. So,
right, you shouldn't need to.
Shouldn't need to. Okay, so what you see here is an airplane that's pretty much ready to fly. Now, we have a couple things we need to test still, okay? So the camera crew is gonna come around, that manual,
yeah,
grab it, bring it around. So if we were setting this up as a bind and fly, we would both bind it to our transmitter, but then we would have to build a profile. So we haven't done that yet, and we probably won't on this model, at least until we've flown it, and then maybe we'll show that in a later part of the video. We'll come inside, we'll get a programmable transmitter, we'll bind it, and then we'll show you the steps to do that. So this radio setup might be a little bit different in that we do 2 different transmitters, because I'm not gonna probably leave it on this, am I?
probably not, but we'll fly it on that so you can see
We'll show
what
you that
it looks
works.
like. Yep.
Okay, so elevator goes up when you pull the stick down, elevator goes down when you push the stick down. This rolls the plane to the left. That lifts that wing and pushes this wing down, okay? This lifts this wing and pushes that wing down. If you want to get into the great detail, I can later. Yaws the plane this way, yaws the plane that way. So this would be like the pedals in the airplane. This would be like the stick between your legs that you'd be moving to fly the aircraft, okay? Unless it was a yoke, and then it would be totally irrelevant. So also, we need to talk about the light condition on the front, okay? First things first, throttle cut is on, and tested, okay? I trust that throttle cut is working because it is. Now I'm gonna shut it off. Okay, throttle cut's back on. Always be mindful that if you're in the chop zone, if something were break and you're standing right there, you could get hurt. So that's why the camera crew stood there the whole time. Mostly because we've done millions of planes. She knows what's going on, okay? If you don't, be careful. All right, so there's this button, there's this switch, two position. Elevator up. See, it moves more when it's up and it moves less when it's down, okay? So that's high and low rates, okay? So that would be high rates, low rates. So high rates are up there. And same thing with this, low rates, high rates, okay? So now D is a 3-position switch. So I'm guessing that's probably going to be an unused switch right now. Yep, that's gonna be like for flaps, if you had them. Then we have B. These are the different modes. So green would be like safe, I believe. And then this would be like intermediate, and then this would be AS3X only, the red, okay? So AS3X only is gonna be stabilizer. Here's how you can tell. When it's on its belt, when it's upside down on its back, these ailerons are flat, okay? It's not responding unless I move it, okay? Then I can wiggle it and I can see what direction they move, or I can feel it. Up, down, relative to this wing position. That's the roll axis. Up, down. So I can feel it resisting. If I go up, this is gonna go up too. It's gonna resist. Resist, resist, okay? Same thing with the elevator. When I lift it, it's gonna go, in this case, down, but I've got it upside down. Resist, hard to tell on that. You're not gonna be able to feel it very much. Same thing with the yaw axis. Yaw, 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 yaw. Now this one I can show you because it's easy to see, okay? Looking at the rudder, as I go that way, it goes that way. As I go this way, it goes this way. As I go that way, it goes that way. As I go this way, it goes that way. And what's happening, same thing with the ailerons. So the aileron, when I roll this up, it's gonna go up. When I push it down, it's gonna go down. When I roll it up, it's gonna go up. When I roll it down, it's gonna go down. Same thing on both sides. So what that's doing is that is artificial 3-axis stabilization, AS3X. It's trying to resist environmental impact that is not me controlling it. But I still have full control. I just am not doing anything, okay? The difference between this and safe is, watch this. Now it's gonna try to bring that thing level. So you see the ailerons? It's looking for the quickest route to level or the quickest route to level, whichever one comes. Now look at the elevator. It's really working to get that thing level, but it's not leveling. Oh, it's kind of leveling out, it's leveling out, it's getting there, it's getting there, it's getting there, it's getting there. That's pretty level right there. Now what if you're this way? Oh, it's trying to level it out, trying to level it out, trying to level it out, we're level. Now this is gonna manifest itself when you're flying. But if you see that little green light, that means that you're ready to go, okay? If you see this red light, that means stop, you need to know what you're doing. And then this is intermediate. I don't know what intermediate does on this. My guess is it's gonna just limit your pitch and bank angles, okay? So, pitch, bank, roll, bank, same thing. Pitch, pitch, yaw, yaw, okay? So those are the 3 primary control directions. Of course, we have throttle, but throttle is going to interact with all 3 of those things, okay? So when you're flying, now that we have established that the sticks move the control surfaces in the right direction at the right time, in the high rate or low rate, depending on what you desire, and also what mode you want it to be in. And I just want to point this out. We're in green right now. You see green? So we're in safe. So safe is here. In fact, this is what I would suggest you do, just to make things easy on yourself, because, you know, this is, after all, you know, like a ready to fly. So this is safe as safe. Okay, and then this is AS3X. And then there's the middle one is obviously intermediate. Okay? Now, there should be a panic button here too. So I'm gonna try that next.
And also then there's no way to turn any form of stabilization off.
No.
So whatever you do, you're gonna have some
There's gonna be a stabilizer at least, okay? So now watch this. If I'm upside down and I'm confused, I can hit this button here. Okay, I'm in safe. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go to AS3X. So you see the ailerons are level? Okay, so it's not trying to find the quickest route to level. That's gonna aggressively get you level. And even after you've let go, it's gonna stay on for a second. Then it shuts off, okay? So what that does is that gives you the opportunity as a novice pilot to be able to say, I need help right now, panic recovery. And it's gonna be more aggressive and it's gonna go for a few seconds. But just remember, if you're flying at a brick wall and you're confused and it writes you here, it might just hit your camera.
Right.
So just be aware, you don't know exactly where it's going on. Now you're still gonna have some movement, but watch this. Okay, so I've got the control, watch this. It's gonna limit your control authority drastically during that period, you see? See what happened? Now, the way that manifests itself in flight is gonna be very obvious in the flight video, okay? So the maiden flight is the opposite half of what we deliver on every plane we do, is we do maiden flights and we do unbox, build, and radio setup. Now let's talk about taking the battery out. So when you're done, you're gonna slide this over, you're gonna lift this up, you're gonna pull this down, you're gonna unplug it. Now, you can also shut it off here, okay? So you can flip that switch first if you wanna be safe. Just always have your throttle cut on, always have your throttle stick down. Can undo the Velcro, and then we can lift up the battery, and then we can set this on its hind feet, okay? So we're gonna do that right now. And that's so we don't have to listen to the digital noise, because it is pretty annoying, okay? And you might notice that that's pretty annoying. So welcome to the club. It is annoying by definition. You haven't done anything wrong if it's annoying, by the way. So I'm gonna plug this into the charger. Well, here, I'll just plug it in here. It's barely depleted. Just to give you an idea, I'll show you on the XBC battery checker so you can see a percentage basis, which, by the way, the percentage basis is somewhat arbitrary, but it is a percentage basis. Okay? Yeah. So 96. So we went from 98 to 96. Okay? Now, I will tell you this. I've noticed on the S120 that sometimes it takes a long time to start charging when it's like mostly full. And so I am going to plug it in here and just go. The S155 is a great middle of the road. It's gonna be up to 4S, so you can do this plane, you can do some more advanced planes, and it's super cheap. Like it's like 50 bucks, okay? This is gonna be like to the tune of like 250 or 300 bucks, okay? But you're gonna use it for like many, many, many moons. One thing that's nice to have is multiple chargers, okay? I'm gonna try to talk you into getting a programmable transmitter just as quick as possible. And I like the NX10 because it does like all the planes we've done. But I'm gonna tell you something. You only really need one transmitter, okay? When you're flying Spectrum gear and DSMX. But having multiple chargers is not a bad idea, okay?
Yeah.
And we try to give good advice because we know what it's like to work for a living. We know what it's like to pay for lots of expensive hobby stuff. And so we know you're probably in a similar circumstance, unless you're just independently wealthy. And even if you are, you don't want to throw money in the garbage can. Although there are people in this hobby that do that because they crash a lot. Don't be that guy. You know, stretch your dollar as far as you can, because I'm telling you, as soon as you fly this thing and you realize just how amazing it is to fly, to be in command and control of a plane, no matter how basic or advanced it is life-changing. It's amazing how much fun it is to fly these planes. And it's cool because I remember when I started flying, I said, yeah, I just need like a trainer and like a jet, just like one of each. And I was like, honestly thought that was true. I was just slightly wrong. What are we, like 250 planes deep, something like that?
Least.
Probably more.
Probably more, yeah.
So all I've got to say is we might be a little bit of a nuance in the group, but there are people that have more than that. And I think really what happens is that people just get really involved in the process of flying, and they come to love it. And I'm gonna tell you, where it's at for me is fixed wing RC airplanes, okay? We have helis over here, we've done quads, we've done VTOLs, we've done all. We just built a pond. The pond is like literally just getting done. It just filled up like what, 4 days ago, 5 days ago? It was 7 feet from being full then, and now it's full. It was less than a month filling, by the way. And then we had 2 Duray shows in the last 2 weeks. So we have trees we had to clear out. It's been just a mess. But the truth is, when that's done, we can put this on floats. We're gonna do boats. We're gonna do submarines. We're gonna do everything, all the ride-on equipment you can possibly get China to send you. And so the truth is,
Sorry in advance.
it all comes back to fixed wing RC aircraft for me. That's where it's at for me. It's the most immersive, rewarding, challenging, difficult RC experience you can have. But it's also the closest to real life that I think you're gonna experience. Because if you get an RC F1 racer and it goes like 300 miles an hour scale, that's all cool and fun. But you know what? You're still limited to so many different things. You have to have a track. You have to have this. You go up in the air is the same for this as it is for the real thing. The only difference is the molecule to plane size. So the bigger planes do tend to fly a little bit more realistically, like that Carbon Z T28. I actually said it right for once. That plane back there is amazing. And I'm just to tell you this. What's going to happen is you're going to start with something like this. It's a 1.5 meter. It's a pretty good sized plane. And you're gonna be hooked. And that's the way it is for most people. But the thing is, if you get the wrong plane, you're not gonna ever get hooked because you're gonna crash. You're gonna immediately get in trouble with your wife because you're gonna blow like $700-800 and you're gonna fail. And it's gonna be like so many other people that have done it. And we don't want that for you. We want success for you because at the end of the day, this hobby needs more people. It needs people that are into it. It needs people that are spending money on it. It needs people that are buying new planes. It needs people that are investing in new technology. And we really need to broaden and increase the size and reach of this hobby. And there's only one way to do it. You're not gonna start with a $35,000 turbine jet at Jono. Okay, that's just not where people start. But we were there, we've been there 2 years now in a row, and it's just amazing. There's 10,000 people that live in a 400-acre aerodrome. We're building our own aerodrome, if you guys didn't know that already. It's just a lot smaller. It's like 24 acres. Theirs is 440 acres. So they have room for mile-long strips and stuff like that. Well, it's actually 10,000 feet, but still, 7,000 feet with a 3,000-foot overflow. But we are gonna have full-scale strip. We're gonna have a helipad. We're gonna have crosswind strips on our premises. It's gonna be pretty amazing, but we're in the process of doing it and really doing it. And so we love it, guys. I love it. We're talking retirement account investments, okay? We're not talking about a couple $100 foamy investment. We're talking lots invested. Because we love this hobby. We want to bring you guys the best. We want to give you guys a place where you can compare and contrast this compared to the Chinese garbage that we get to. Because at the end of the day, anybody can make their plane look good online, okay? But we're going to show it in real life. Case in point, broken control surface. So that stupid little clevis thing, okay? We show that stuff on Brian Phillips RC, and I'm sure the manufacturers love it. But somehow we keep working with them. Do you want to know why? Because we bring the real experience to real guys that really have worked for a living and know how hard it is to make a living and pay for all their wives' things and all their kids' things and all their stupid taxes. And at the end of the day, you're left with that couple $100 of delicious spendable money that you can spend on something like this, and you will have a blast. I'm telling you, you talk about stretching your dollars to give you the most joy. This is one way you can really do it. Now, that's not to say that in a couple of years, you're not going to be an addict like me and just look for the next fix. You might be, and that's okay, because it's a good place to be. Because there's not a more wholesome, fulfilling, challenging, rewarding, amazing, challenging, difficult. You know, I keep throwing that challenging in there because I don't want you to feel bad. Because if you get this and you say, Brian, I still can't do it. Neither could I when I first did it. Okay? It takes time. You're probably looking at, you know, somewhere between 6 months to 2 years for the average pilot, I think, to get to where they can start doing things without something like safe. Now, you don't always have to use safe, by the way. You can shut that off with the flip of a switch. But AS3X is still going to be active, which is going to be stabilizer. That means you can flip it upside down. You can do loops. You can do inverter loops. You can do whatever you want. You can roll all that stuff. But you're in command. You're in control. And that's really fun. When you first realize that you have the keys to your own aerial kingdom, you are going to be into it. And I can promise you, the sky is quite literally the limit, so long as you're under 400 feet. Anyway, that's another story for another day. If you want to learn more about remote ID, by the way, we literally have a video about the Sky Module, which is something you can buy for planes like this if you want to fly at your local park or, you know, the schoolyard when the kids aren't out there playing, or things like that that would typically not be considered a club. You can still do it and you can be fully compliant, but you just have to be careful. There are some rules that you're supposed to respect. Now, I am not a nanny state supporter here. As far as I'm concerned, they can go pound sand. But the truth is, we want you to be aware that there are some rules in place and they do have some penalties and stuff that they can impose. However, they don't really have a good enforcement mechanism. So if you've got a Barney Fife that lives near you, you might want to do your best to at least cover your butt, right? Mm-hmm. So you can look into that if you're curious, or just get involved in a club and they'll help you to learn the ropes. Now, if you get involved in a club and they poo-poo safe and they poo-poo, you know, trainers, and they're like, no, we're not doing that, we're not doing this, we're gonna make you do it our way, or whatever, fine. Just do this, just slam the door. Bye, see ya, go to the next one, find a good one. I'm serious, guys. If you can't get the help you need, we're gonna be here to help you, and that's the truth. Because you can go back 10 years and watch me flubbing things up like crazy, and you can watch the progression. And we're where we are now because we work hard and we stick to it. And if you want to fly RC airplanes, that is something you have to do. Okay, like I said, it's challenging. I think that's like 6 times I've said it now, but it's super rewarding and it's well worth it. It's well worth it because there are some things in life that are challenging and they still suck, like fighting cancer. And then there's other things in life that are really good and just keep getting better, like flying RC airplanes, okay? There are some drawbacks. Sometimes your wife might ask what that box is that you're carrying in, and you have to come up with like really quick excuses like new leaf blower. You know, I mean, obviously this is the blender that you told me to buy because our blender was broken. Or, you know, it's a new vacuum cleaner for me, not for you. It's for me to use so I can clean your living room. So you'll want to work on those right now. Snakes in the basement. Just remember, snakes in the basement. The beer truck's right around the corner to get you. You never know when it's coming down the street. So that's why we're here at Brian Phillips RC. We want to help you guys get from the chair to the air. We know you're watching this, probably sitting down, most of you, and that's good. And if you're watching this standing up, good Lord, take a seat. This is a long video, okay? And by the way, if you guys notice this video being like over an hour long or hours long, and you find yourself watching it, high five for watching such a long video. Because that's what we do here on Brian Phillips RC. We try to cover everything. We leave no stone unturned. Because the truth is, most of the other guys are just gonna be like, open it up and set it up. And to be honest, this plane is relatively easy to set up, but there's a lot of weird things about these trainers. And I kind of wish I could be like, hey, Horizon, listen, why don't we use the stuff that they're going to be using in a few months when they're getting into a plug and play? And why don't we make it a little simpler? Those are conversations they didn't ask, but the truth is when people demand things like GPS, geofencing, auto land, it looks really good in a marketing video until you're sitting at the field like, what direction do I roll this thing? And everybody's looking at you like, man, that guy's had too much to drink. I'm serious. I've been there, done that. I'm just saying, you don't want to be that guy. But if you are that guy, and we got to talk about CG too. Let's show them this card.
We do.
This card is the card that you would use.
This will remind you what mode you're in if you forget what color your lights are.
Yes, we were going to talk about that later, and here's later, guys.
And if you're going to use all of this other stuff for your fence and your GPS calibration, this is a little like quick guide. But again,
when we say quick, I mean it's
kinda, like 8-point
maybe
font.
not very quick. Okay, listen. Center of gravity, folks. Remember, the center of gravity is where the plane pivots on the wing, okay? It's the center of the overall mass, okay?
Go back like several pages.
It's 70 to 90, I thought.
Yes.
And by the way, when you buy one of these ready-to-fly planes and use the provided or the suggested battery, I should say not provided so much. Where is that thing? We'll pause and find it. Page 9, okay? So you see this? What the heck is going on with this guy's hands? Does he have two left hands?
It does look
Left and left. If you have two left hands, get a friend to hold the one
other
side.
half of your plane.
Okay, so real quick, what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip the plane on its back and we're gonna measure, okay? These are calipers. You don't have to use calipers, but that's what we use. They are measured in millimeters and they're measured on the flat. You don't carry, you know, like a flat piece of paper and roll it over. So 70 to 90, okay? So there's 70, close enough. Wow, that was pretty dang good. Okay, so just go along the leading edge, and I like to make a little stabby stabber right there. And then I went right in front of this orange, so I'll go over here and then stabby style stabber. Now you're gonna notice I have a marker here. The marker is so I can darken the hole. I mean, there's people that have whole businesses to undo that. So 70 to 90, okay? So 70 to 90. Okay, so there's 90. That is a huge range, folks.
Yeah,
70 to 90 is like 20 millimeters is crazy. We're used to seeing 10 on most planes this size. And that just tells you what's gonna happen is this plane is capable of flying with a variety of different batteries because the payload is basically just a little bit in front of the center of gravity, which is pretty common. Sometimes it's further out. You create a longer lever from the center of gravity. And so as you work through different pack sizes, like you might fly this on 2200 4S, or excuse me, 3S rather. 2200 3S is considerably smaller than 4000 3S, right? So let's say you use this battery instead of the one that we got in this kit. There's 4000, there's 2200. Okay, that's gonna be a lot smaller. Let's see if it still meets the CG requirements, okay?
About 5 minutes.
I bet it might, maybe, could, possibly. I'm not even gonna plug it in, I'm just gonna stick it in the hole. And so we'll just show you how to test. Because then, if this doesn't work, I'm gonna show you what to do about it. And by the way, we're almost out of time, so thanks for sticking around. If you guys want to support Brian Phillips RC, look no further than the links in the video description below. Buy the planes you like, not the ones that somebody else tells you to buy the ones you love, okay? Front hole, balance it on both left hands. Back hole, and it's leaning forward, so you could actually get away with flying 2200 3S. It fits, and it does. So you'll see what happens as you go further and further back here. The balance point, or the center of gravity, is going to move back here. What's going to happen is the plane will become more and more tail heavy. This is actually balanced within the range, but just barely. If you're way back here to get it to put the nose down, then that means it's tail heavy, which means that it's gonna fly very pitch sensitive. The elevator is gonna be hyperactive, and it may even oscillate a little bit, but that usually comes from changing the whole position on the elevator output. Okay, and more about that in other videos. I don't wanna get too in the weeds on this video, but the truth is if you put that 4000 in there, it's gonna just be darn near perfect. Now, if you wanna use an even smaller pack, like a 1300 3S, like this one, this 1300 3S is pretty small. You're not gonna get a long flight time, but the truth is you can fly it on that. But guess what? It's not gonna be heavy enough to get you in the center of gravity range. So guess what you gotta do? You take the battery and then you find something else. And I'm assuming that you guys probably have something like this in your tool bag, and you stick that in there and you help balance the CG, okay? Now that is about the dumbest thing you can do, just so you know, because dead weight doesn't make you fly any longer. We're at 100% on that battery, by the way. And so just to prove a point, I'm gonna pull this out, shut that off. I like that there's a toggle switch on the back of that. I don't have to pull the power cord out each time. And by the way, thanks so much for watching, guys. These long format videos get punished by YouTube all the time. Just wanted to let you guys know we really appreciate you guys sticking around. It helps the algorithm to recommend our videos to more people, which right now we're just getting kind of killed by that. But the truth is, at the end of the day, everybody wants AI, everybody wants instant gratification, including me. And so we want to give you guys what you really need, and that's help, and help takes time. Okay, so centered in the middle, not plugged in, but it's simulated. Look at that, perfectly centered right there, okay? So there you have it. If we left any stone unturned and you have questions, leave it in the comments below. We'll do our best to help, and we are really here to really help. And sometime maybe we'll meet you, like at RC Fest. We just got back from RC Fest, we hope, by the time you're seeing this.
Probably.
Or we're just about to go. And we just got back from Joan All, and if we met you at Joan All 2024, it was amazing. Hopefully we'll see you in 2025. Thanks for watching, guys. So much more to come from Brian Phillips RC right around the corner. And the pond is almost done. We're going to give you guys a pond update soon. And we really appreciate you guys. So don't forget to smash the thumbs up. And when you're subscribing, click the bell for notifications so you're notified of new content that comes out, which is usually twice a week on Mondays or Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we're going to look forward to seeing you guys right around the corner. If you want to support us, like I said, buy the planes, radios, stuff from the links in the video description below. Patreon, one-time donations, PayPal monthly support.
Other way around. Patreon is monthly.
Thank you.
PayPal is one-time donations.
And then YouTube super thanks for one-time donations and YouTube members. All of you guys are appreciated, but at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is buy planes that you want and live the dream with us. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned.